right.
How the fucking tell you?
The Crips are already established in the street, bro. We got and coming established in
Yo,
jail,
but
bro.
Big C,
Bro,
what,
yeah,
I
100.
agree with you. I agree with you, but
Right.
100%, the homies was a lot louder than the Crips were. So that's why it
You
made it
gotta
seem like
call the
blood
homie
was starting to
Corey,
flow.
my nigga, not Big C, my nigga.
Yeah,
You
Yeah,
don't want to
please,
I
call
man.
got
him
you. I
Big
got
Yeah,
you,
C.
Wack.
well,
I
you
got
You
you,
gotta
bugging
Wack.
call
out,
him
man.
Corey, my nigga.
I
Bugging
got
out.
you, Wack. Respect,
Hey
all
yo,
respect.
hey yo, you hear me? Well, Mike, yo, this Trife, yo, I was on the island, '94. It was Crips on the island with me, '94, '95, '96. We was in two
Talk
upper,
about it.
two upper. You had Crips, Smokes, and Bloods in the Blood House and two upper. We wasn't warring against Crips. We was warring against Latin Kings and Yatas and
Fact.
police, and the Crips was in the streets. So that's a fact. So while we
Talk
were in the
about it.
jails, and we came to fight against oppression, regardless of how it came, the Crips wasn't on that. So they was following what they had from the West Coast. So we on the island, young, you got the 5%ers who turned, the elders who turned blood. Then you had the adolescents in the Ford building who was turning it up. It's the adolescents on the East Coast that brung the pain that turned up blood in the city of New York, in the state of New York. So from that point on, there was the Crips that were in the streets were growing and doing the things that they was doing. The homies was taking over the Rikers Island and the state prison, putting the work in. So because the homies was selective and you only had to be a shooter, you could not get in unless you was a shooter. You had to go in houses and take houses. Everybody couldn't come in. So when people saw the strength there, that's when people started falling behind the Bloods in the state prison. The Bloods got so strong taking over the state prison and the East Coast that nobody could fuck with the homies, and we began fighting ourselves. At the same time, while people didn't understand what was going on with the Bloods inside the state prison, the Bloods was going in the streets and doing shit such as cutting people, black women, because they had red on, and people started getting upset and saying, "Well, I'm going to be Crip to fight against that," because there was people from the West Coast pushing to the Crips on the East Coast that if you see Bloods, because they didn't know where we came from and what we was doing, so they said if you see any Bloods, those are our enemies. So they pushed that narrative when we wasn't even fighting Crips. So that's how that situation happened. From that point, there was people like myself also who advocated for Crips to be able to live inside of New York City State Prison. I land.
I wanted to say something real quick. Like I said, it be different temperatures and different scenarios, man. Cause like I said, there wasn't many of them. It'd be a handful. And I could just speak for my experience. Like when I was in the Ford building, we was cutting the Crips. And there was a handful of Crips.
What
And anyone that, like I said, in them years when I was in the Ford building, which
you got to
was
be talking the
96,
90s, 96, 97.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
talking about, the 90s. Like we went at them. We had to go at them.
all right.
We
I
had, there
listen to,
was
and
no,
that's what I'm saying, bro. From 93 to about, I went up north. My number is 96R 4713. That's my first state number, 96R 4713. You can look me up and see if I went up top for what I went up for, regardless. So from 90, 93, 94, 95, 96, I was in and out of there. So I'm telling you what was happening on the island. That's the fact. From that point on, whatever was happening in the streets, the Crips that were growing in the streets started going to Rikers Island. So that energy was already created in the streets. So by the time y'all got to deal with them around 97, 96, 97, y'all started to war with each other. That's how that happened, homie.
bro. Let me tell you how dangerous y'all shit was. You got the Bloods birthed in the jail system. They getting deep as a motherfucker in jail. Then you got the Crips at that time starting on the streets. They putting their work on the streets. So now you got some Crip niggas that's gonna go to the Rikers, gonna catch the blues, because it's all Bloods. Then you got the Bloods getting out the joint that's gonna come to the streets and catch the blues on the streets because it's dominated by Crips. You
Nah,
niggas
nah,
had a
nah, nah,
cold.
nah, nah.
Nah,
Hold
that's a
on,
fact.
nah,
Nah, nah,
Wack.
no, nah,
They
nah,
ain't
nah,
gonna.
Nah,
nah. That's
nah,
a fact.
nah. He
Nah, that's
right,
a
bro.
fact, bro. That's a
Listen,
fact.
listen,
Yeah,
listen,
Yeah,
he
he
listen,
right.
right.
going on what
Wack
you
is right with
saying.
that
Yo,
one.
listen,
One
listen,
mic,
listen. That was some
One
cold
one
mic,
mic,
shit.
man. One mic. One mic.
one
Yeah, what?
mic on Corey.
Listen, one mic. Whack is 100% right. First of all, right, it wasn't no bloods at all on the street until Ring Dog went home.
Fact.
You know what I mean? And that was my drop directly. Me and Krill brought Ring Dog to the table. And when he went
And
home,
Ring Dog
he,
and Ring Dog
he
brought
landed in
everything to
Albany. Hold
Albany.
on,
He
Trife.
Trife,
really
Hold
brought
on, Trife.
Trife,
Trife. Hold on, Trife.
please
My
Hold
stop
on,
love,
Trife.
bro.
interrupting, Trife.
Hold on, Trife. Let me break it down now. When Ring Dog came home, this is what gave life to Trife, Sledgy or his brothers. These are the first set of niggas that had it tough in the street. Trife was a little bit more well respected because of what he stood at and what he stood for. But the other dudes had to really put on a little extra. Trife came to jail and had to pick up where we left off on the islands. He had it tough because why? He was respected and considered as a leader. But in the street, to this day, even in Flatbush, we outnumbered by the Crips.
East New York, all that.
Yeah.
So that would have been like if I would have been a blood, what I would have did or had to do, I would have to come to the table and say, look, nigga, y'all killing my homies on the way out. We can kill you niggas on the way in. We got to come to some type of neutral ground around this motherfucker. I would have used that to
That's what I did.
find a neutral ground.
That's what was happening though.
Personally, that's what I would have did. You know what I'm saying?
It wasn't no neutral
Yeah,
ground if you live in Brooklyn, though.
I was about to say,
definitely
see, it's
back
different
then,
though,
You
nigga.
see.
heard?
But yo,
That's why I
it's
wanted to
different
use
Nah, I'm
that.
gonna
now.
tell you why
It's
you
different
wrong.
because
Cause the dope
Yo,
game brought it all together when you wanted it to. Believe that.
Nah, in the streets, that shit ain't
yo,
matter. It wasn't about no money at that time. It was only colors. That's all we knew. We ain't know nothing else, especially living in East New York
New York
and traveling through
always about
Flatbush.
money. New York ain't never not about no money, bro. I don't give a fuck what you
Yeah,
niggas
but when it
say.
came to this game banging shit, we didn't worry about that. It was really color on color shit. That happened later on down the line.
Hey yo, you had a brother named Wink that used to work for Trife at the GMAC program, right? And this is the reason why when people say, yo, CK, yo, you came home and you stepped to them niggas. Whoa. Yeah, I stepped to them and I came home in 2003. I said, but without Trife, that shit would have never been successful and homies would have still been getting knocked. When I came home, they was knocking homies down and the threes and fours on every corner in 2003. I mean, literally, little Crip females on bikes would pull up and boom, 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 and ride off. And as they ride off, another car come and hit the corners of it, so you couldn't get back at them. All type of crazy shit. When I came home, and at the time,
Blackstone Trife from getting all the
I'm
all
getting
the
all
If
them
that
niggas in
nigga
here
said
too,
the
nigga.
Crips was in New York
And
first,
I'm getting
boy, I'm
all my
finna enjoy
homies
this
in
shit.
here too. Oh God,
Nah,
I'm getting
nah,
all my
nah.
homies in
Crips was
here.
Nah,
heavy.
Jukes is
Crips,
Jukes
Crips.
Jukes saying some real
Yo,
shit. Jukes
yo,
on
Nah, that's
yo,
point.
real
Wack.
shit.
I don't know
That's
who
real
you,
shit.
yo, Wack. Not for nothing, boy. I know you for one thing.